Absolute Cinema. And we're back. Welcome back. Sit down, get a cup of coffee, because we're here for the quarter one 2020. Michael, you messed it up! God! This is supposed to be a clean intro! God! Okay, redo. Sit down, get a cup of coffee. We're on one taking this, no matter how many times I mess it up. We're not restarting the recording. We're ripping this. This is the quarter two 2026 letterbox Moss Chop bracket. We got to get to a better name, but we'll get there by like quarter three 2027 maybe. We're starting here, of course, with American Gangster. I'll even pull it up here. Here's the old letterbox with American Gangster here. And then if we go back to this guy here, a little preview for anyone interested in what I've been watching. You get a little preview. You get a little previews. A little couple rewatches. A little new watch. A little new watch. We can talk about that later. And then of course the old ending on the Sherlock Jr. here. So this is the bracket. Of course, I think last time we shuffled it. I think it's a good time to do that too. So I'm gonna hit this with an edit. We're using level LV up bracket, easy bracket, whatever. It worked last time. It worked last time like a fucking charm, like a charm. So I'm gonna do it again. I got a little sea shanty there, you know. Oh, she works like a charm there. Okay. All right. So we'll hit triple shuffle. So we'll hit a one. We'll hit a two. Blues could do in weekend two. That's a three, and then we'll confirm. And here it is. We've got, I believe this is 50 here. We could probably do this. We've got, how many are in the first round here? We've got 25 in the first round. We got a nice clean 50. Wasn't planned, but I am excited. So we'll start up here. I even saw a couple down here that are all the way at the bottom that are really interesting me. So we'll come back. We'll come back though. So we got round one. That are immediately they're gonna have a bye round after this. They're gonna get to round three because of how the matchup is gonna go. But round one, we've got Rashomon, an Akira Kurosawa film versus Steamboat Bill Jr., a Buster Keaton film. Both two just fucking titans, titans in terms of directors and influence throughout the last. What was Buster Keaton? He was doing that 100 years ago, and then Kurosawa was doing that 70 years ago. I mean, this is a hard one to place, but I do think Steamboat Bill Jr. is pretty fun. It's got amazing blocking. It's got great stunts. I believe this is the house falling on Buster Keaton and he's standing in the window gag. Excellent bit. It's nice. It's quick. But then you got Rashomon, like great Akira Kurosawa film. The story of you know unreliable narrators, at least in multiple cases, and maybe every case is an unreliable narrator telling the same story from their likely augmented, likely incorrect point of view compared to the truth. So really interesting. I do think I have to go with Rashomon. I think it is just stronger, the Steamboat Bill Jr. You hate to see this guy go out so quick, especially with some other ones down here that obviously are not gonna pull through. But at a certain point, you're gonna have to see a Titan go up against a Titan, and that's just how the random seeding goes. That's just how the random seeding goes. Then we've got Ultimate Avengers the movie, little animated Avengers movie. And in all things considered, it's a 90-minute kids cartoon. It's a long version of a Saturday morning cartoon with an extended plot and maybe a couple risque costume choices for a number of female characters. But overall, it's a kids Avengers movie. It's nothing that I'm gonna be like, you gotta go watch this. But if you want to show it to your 9-year-old to stun lock him for 90 minutes, you might be able to, right? They got 10 things I hate about you. Just this is a pretty new one. This got to be like pretty recent. Yeah, this is June 30th. Doing this on the 5th. So this is a week ago. This is fresh in my mind though. Fresh. You got Heath Ledger. You've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Probably other names I should remember. You got the guy who was the the Jewish guy in Oppenheimer. I don't know if he was a rabbi or something else, but he was like Oppenheimer's friend in the early parts. You got that guy, but he's a kid. Um, Really, really interesting, especially for a coming of age rom com. I don't know if I've ever seen something this unique, especially um, to not try and put too many spoilers, but you follow a lot more of people that you don't think you would follow based on the plot rather than people you do think you would follow. They're all still there, but some people get more light than I would expect about others. The whole 10 Things I Hate About You part is great. Heath Ledger's amazing, like especially because he's still young, he's still new. So is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he was a little quirky, but I think that's what his character was trying to do. So, I mean, this one's pretty cut and dry. I think it's just 10 Things I Hate About You would be the one that I would have to go through here. And now we've got the really difficult components of which Mission Impossible is which, because I don't remember based on the names of which one is which. Um, so Mission Impossible Fallout is the one with Henry Cavill, and they're trying to stop the like a nuke going off. Um, and of course, it's Tom Cruise and the brainy bunch trying to stop him like normal. This one I remember actually being pretty good. I don't think it really blew me away, no pun intended, with the nuke. But I do think it was pretty good, all things considered, especially compared to so many other Mission Impossibles. I mean, we'll get down to this guy here. But I think it was fine. I'm looking at the letterbox on the old telephone. I gave it a 3.5. It is long and it's got some goofy dialogue. Um, the they had some good fights and some good choreography. Um, I think it's pretty good, and it's going up against Mikey and Nicky, which is it's got the guy who plays Columbo, who now I'm completely blanking on the name. It's Peter Falk, and then the other guy is John Cassavetes as Nicky. So Peter Falk is Mikey and John Cassavetes is Nicky, as Nicky is having like an existential crisis, believing a mob boss wants to have him killed, and Mikey is trying to help him. Um, Pretty interesting for this film. It does kind of stumble around. It's very Odyssey style where you don't really know where you're going, and it's a couple of guys who are just they're in this place and they're in this place and they're in this place and they're not sticking around and they're going everywhere. I think if you did have to make me choose, I don't think any of these, neither of these are making it past round two, but that's okay. I think if you really had to make me pick between this Mission Impossible movie and Mikey and Nicky, I think Mikey and Nicky probably has better influence. It's probably a better movie overall, even though they are just neither one do I really want to rewatch. Mikey and Nicky kind of having a bit of a My Dinner with Andre sort of vibes. I don't know if that's maybe it was a cinematographer sort of thing or something else, or it's just due to the fact that it was from the 70s that maybe it fits through. But I do think I would give it to Mikey Nicky versus Mission Impossible Fallout here. And then you got, oh my god, you've got Grizzly Man versus Possession. Grizzly Man being a Werner Herzog documentary about a guy who would go out with grizzly bears and essentially tried to was an activist for their preservation in their habitat and would also consistently um, go out and just camp with the bears up in Alaska because they weren't hungry, right? It was summer. They were getting plenty of food. They didn't have to worry about bulking before winter was going to come. So they generally wouldn't harass them. And sort of Werner Herzog is looking at a lot of this guy's this work and trying to draw conclusions. It's pretty damn good for both Werner Herzog and a documentarian effort. Um, Then you've got Possession, a horror movie with a lot of goopiness. A very very odd horror movie. If you've ever seen that picture of the girl smiling at the camera while looking to the side, that's what this one's from. I said arguably the most artsy thing I've seen year to date. Some really nice shots and concept and freakiness, but I don't know what the rest is. I'm afraid I must have had a gas leak watching this. I'm not sure the purpose of it at the end of the day. It is very weird. It is very, very weird. You can't go into this, expecting you're watching a Mission Impossible movie that you go, oh, everything makes perfect, clear sense. This is a film that will try and challenge you, and arguably Grizzly Man as well. Um, I think which one is the better film is probably Possession, but I do hate to see Grizzly Man go out this early. Go out this early. I mean, it would blow either of these out of the water. It would probably blow either of these out of the water. Some of these down here, we're gonna end up having to make a real strong competition against. But I do think Possession is just a bit of a stronger film overall. But if you haven't seen Grizzly Man, I would recommend it. If you've got probably 100 minutes on a Tuesday night, I think this could go well. Um, then you got Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows with Guy Ritchie, and Ghosts in the Shell, my one anime movie for this year. Um, these I both watched relatively recently. I hadn't seen Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows in a while. Like I'd seen it a long time ago. I remember always clips for it because I want to say it's Hans Zimmer who actually does the music for this. I might be wrong. Uh, I have no idea. There's a lot of stunts. I thought they would be higher up on this, and I can't find it in the fucking letterbox thing. But it's got a pretty good soundtrack. It's a Guy Ritchie film. It's pretty shallow overall in plot, but yeah, definitely great cinematography, which is pretty much what I wrote. Pretty shallow, some explosive cinematography that fills us out in the movie like a sparkler on your birthday. Yeah, you're like, oh, look at this big thing. Then you're like, all right, I need something else. I need to eat cake or enjoy this in some way. So it's all right. And then you got Ghost in the Shell, my one anime movie for this year, which is pretty good. Keeps you in the dark for a lot of it as you try and grasp what is a shell and ghost. Some things held for slightly longer than I would expect, then make it slightly awkward. Had some nice transitions and effects that paired nicely with the themes. Wish it had a bit more music throughout rather than the odd musical breaks. Yeah, the odd musical breaks really just slowed down the movie for me. I feel like this it was probably like what 90 minutes, 83 minutes. You could have cut this to like a fucking 75. Like there's not much for substance in this, even though there is a surprising amount of existential topics within this of what is a person. Very I've seen a lot of people compare it, and I can even recognize it myself. Of the middle child between the Matrix and um, the Blade Runner. Both is a person if they don't have human parts that make up them, or do they have a soul in any way? Um, and what comes of that? And you can obviously see some influences on both sides of passing down. The Wachowskis probably definitely took some influence from that, and then Ghost in the Shell from Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. Um, I do think both of those movies are probably better than this one, but I mean, all three of those movies completely blow A Game of Shadows out of the water. Definitely still some pretty good parts. I'd say good performances overall for a Guy Ritchie movie, but this is you watch this when there's nothing else on the plane where you're like, wow, they've got this and Hoodwinked. I guess I could watch a Game of Shadows. Yeah, yeah, we could watch a Game of Shadows. But Ghost in the Shell, I mean, easily can blow it out of the water. Um, American Gangster versus Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible 2 is just crap. The cinematography is not great. Performances are okay. The plot is pure dog shit. I don't remember any of the music. I don't even know if it uses any of the Mission Impossible theme. I think it has. I might be wrong, but I think it has like a fucking. It's got like Anthony Hopkins or something to like give him his original mission or some shit like that. Like it's fucking weird. I might be wrong. It might be like a. It might be Brendan Gleeson. I can't remember. Maybe Brendan Gleeson. No, no, it's Anthony Hopkins. I think Brendan Gleeson. I can't remember any of this movie because it was just it fucking went over my head because I was just like, get this fucking just finish this. Oh, it's got so many slow mo shots for no reason too. Um, yeah, it's just sloppy. It's not even cheesy. You got American Gangster, which is it's a fine film overall. I think I watched that close to the start of this month, if I don't remember. Right, it was the one that I started with. Um, I said interesting start to quarter two. This is carried by the stars, of course. You got Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, Josh Brolin. I can never pronounce his name because the guy's also in the back rooms. I want to say Chiwetel Ejiofor. Probably said that wrong. And I think you even get some Norman Reedus and Idris Elba um, tossed in there for some reason. Yeah, Norman Reedus is like a guy in the morgue for like one scene. It's really weird to see him. Um, Story itself is relatively plain for a gangster movie, hitting a lot of very common points. Cinematography and music is nothing fancy, but this to be expected at this point from Ridley Scott. He makes something that's acceptable and you think is good, but likely won't rewatch. I gave it a surprising 4 out of 5 stars. Um, it's pretty good for what it is, but at the end of the day, it's a Ridley Scott movie. You can only get so far with it before you're like, all right, this is slightly bad shit. Let's wrap this up. We've gone on for 140 minutes, and we really need to clean up this third act and just roll credits, right? It's going on pretty long. So even with this being stumbling for a good point of this, I mean, it's Coughing Baby versus Hydrogen Bomb. Like this is the easiest choice. Gonna go American Gangster to move forward. Then you've got High and Low, an amazing Akira Kurosawa film, and the first Reformed. Um, High and Low, definitely like really interesting. When did I end up watching this? Did I miss this? High and Low. Watched this on the 14th of April. This guy knows how to do it. Really solid shot composition, good performances, music where necessary, and entertaining story. People in a room talking and crime are my two favorite genres. Yeah, it's influential for a reason. It's really, really good blocking. I mean, if you want to watch a movie about blocking, this is one you can do it. The amount of times that he moves the camera to a new location and you can see reactions from so much of that big cast in that room of that house is just fantastic. Um, and in comparison, you have First Reformed, which is a really interesting Ethan Hawke film. I said a little lost at the end, but it's pretty solid. Good shots, performances, a story throughout, and I'm not sure if the ending was the real ending or if just what Toller was imagining. I'm sure someone has already made a video essay about it. Touches on interesting concepts of faith in God, the church, others, and oneself. Overall, very well done, but quite eerie at times. Yeah, I mean, Ethan Hawke is amazing in this. This is, I'd say, a Titan versus a demigod, right? Like it's two things that I hate to see one of these go out in the first round. I mean, I see either of these making it to round three if I wasn't rigging the bracket, if I wasn't hitting the random 3 times with direct code injections to make sure it's got the worst seeding known to man. But I'd probably go high and low. I mean, First Reformed is really good. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. But I would even more recommend High and Low at the end of the day. You got Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which, Jesus Christ, this naming standard is just a mess. So Dead Reckoning is the one where he rides the motorcycle off the cliff and then is flying towards the train. If you're trying to remember, and then Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is the start of this AI entity one. I believe the whole thing with Dead Reckoning is it's a nuke. Um, at the end of the day, I think Final Reckoning might have been the one that's got the underwater submarine spot. That might be in the second one. The first and second of the Final Reckoning are just a complete mess in my mind. It's just it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. Do I not have it in here? Wait, no, Final Reckoning and Dead Reckoning. I thought it was on part one, part two. Do I have that wrong? Is Dead Reckoning the one right before Final Reckoning? God damn it. God damn it. Uh, it is. Okay. So Dead Reckoning is the part one. And final. So we're looking at part one, part two of both. They're AI. Never mind. Never mind. I'm a fool. I'm a fool. Um, but at the end of the day, it's AI, and then they launch the nukes. That's the whole point, right? Um, but Jesus Christ, this is like Dead Reckoning was definitely really fucking long. Set Priest with the bridge was interesting. At least I think that's at the end that I was referring to? Question mark. And the second part is just yeah, it's a goofball plot. Um, but the black boxing around the frame was at least interesting in this part. A lot of Dutch angles though for some reason I'm remembering. Um, I, it's, I don't really care. I'm just gonna put the first one. Even though like these are both just it's really sloppy. I understand what it did in terms of Tom Cruise saving cinema, but you gotta go with just one of them and just let it wash over you without worrying about it. Then we got Ultimate Avengers 2, which I barely remember, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which is the Brad Bird one where they're in. I believe this is the one where he's climbing the Burj Khalifa, and it has the whole. Um, what would you call that? The dust storm and everything, and it's got a weird Jeremy Renner and Leia Seydoux part of it, and you're like, okay, um, it's definitely some interesting gimmicks versus just the second part of a Saturday morning cartoon. You left, you went upstairs, you grabbed some cereal during the commercial breaks, and they just resumed. Right? It's nearly the exact same movie, just with a slightly different, bad guy they got to beat, and they still have internal struggles between all their members because that's what they have to have in order to keep it interesting. Um, but I probably would go with Ghost Protocol, especially like a tip to the hat of, what used to be the goat of Brad Bird there. Then you've got Daredevil with Ben Affleck versus the Hound of the Baskervilles, which was actually more interesting than I probably give it credit for here. Let me see if I can find this bad boy. The Hound of the Baskervilles, the 1959 one with Peter Cushing, surprisingly, and a young Christopher Lee. Kind of hard to recognize him, especially because I've seen so much of him while he's older. Versus the old Daredevil, which was watched pretty early into this, and I saw a lot of interesting shots and concepts paired with a large cast of familiar faces. I mean, you've got Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, Colin Farrell, Michael Clark Duncan, Jon Favreau, even Pantoliano. Um, those are all the ones that I recognize. Huge cast throughout that, and pretty good, especially for a superhero movie, which I tend to be not the biggest fan of. But The Hound of the Baskervilles is a nice, like 50s style whodunit slash mystery. Um, I think it's got fine framing. I don't remember much of the music, but Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and I believe Andre Morel, if I can read the name correct, are all pretty damn good. I think if I had to pick one to rewatch, I would honestly love to rewatch The Hound of the Baskervilles over Daredevil. But Daredevil definitely has some interesting components with, his vision and everything else. But I think at the end of the day, I do have to go with The Hound of the Baskervilles. Then you've got two 2026 releases, which really interestingly fall in here. You've got Disclosure Day from Steven Spielberg, with, you got Josh O'Connor, you've got, was that Colin Firth? You've got Emily Blunt, you've got Coleman Domingo, I believe Wyatt Russell, who I kind of recognized. I can't remember exactly what I recognize him from, but he was not bad. Versus Backrooms, um, which of course is a 2026 release with the previously mentioned Chiwetel Ejiofor. Got a very long review on here. I think it's because it was 2026 and I wanted to give it a bit. But this is probably the best version of a Backrooms movie that we could have gotten. I think this could be a lot worse than what it was. It didn't feel cheesy. It felt like they explored it nicely while still having a good amount of horror concepts. Um, and then you're pairing that against Steven Spielberg's newest release. Steven Spielberg. If that name doesn't mean anything to you, you have to crawl out from under your rock. Um, I give it a very generous 3.5. And I guess just the tagline of this review is Spielberg make a non-confusing alien movie challenge impossible. I it's kind of all over the place. I've tried with a lot of Spielberg movies, and I think we'll even see it down here. Possibly. Did I miss it? Did I not have ET in here? Am I blind? No? Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. Did I watch it? Did I not watch ET? Question mark? Did I mark it as a rewatch? ET the Extraterrestrial. I marked it as a rewatch. Um, yeah, Spielberg and Williams are definitely two of the greatest. I can't get behind a Spielberg alien movie. I'm sorry. I tried it with Disclosure Day. I tried it with E.T. I tried it with what the fuck, the aliens come down and the guy's making mashed potato um, mashed potatoes on his plate. I'll find it. I'll find it. I'll find it. I'll find it. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I can't do it. He's got good cinematography. I've seen him use split diopters. I've seen him, try and create this like sense of whimsy with the unknown. But it never sticks with me in the way that I thought it would. Um, and the best way that I can describe a lot of um, Spielberg alien based movies, not the Alien franchise, but all of his movies that he works with aliens that I've seen so far, is it's like an Apple product to me. It's like an iPhone. A lot of people enjoy it. A lot of people really enjoy using it. It's not for me. I don't want to rewatch this. I don't want to own an iPhone. I'm probably never going to rewatch Disclosure Day or E.T. or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I can respect the cinematography, I respect the attempt, and good casting and generally pretty good performances. It's just a mess overall in the writing, though. I have no idea what they're going for in any of these. And perhaps it's going over my head, and I'm a goofy goober who doesn't understand a single damn thing unless it's a, you know, interstellar landing on another planet Christopher Nolan film that I just eat my sci-fi slop by Christopher Nolan, and then call it a day. But it's just not for me, and I liked that Backrooms was at least doing something different, doing something interesting. Pulling off of an existing IP is definitely can be rough, but they did it pretty damn well, all things considered. Um, I just this was nothing pulled me in Disclosure Day. Nothing pulled me at any point. I didn't feel for the characters. I didn't feel for the plot. I just at the end of the day didn't care, which is just unfortunate and it sucks. But we're gonna let Backrooms go forward here. Now we've got Requiem for a Dream. Okay, I'll probably get copyrighted. No, I won't. I've got awful singing voices. But you got Requiem for a Dream, which is just a fucking drug fueled mess, versus Blowout. Who did Requiem for a Dream? This is Darren Aronofsky, right? Yeah, same guy who did Black Swan. Um, versus Blowout, Brian De Palma film from 1981. He also did the original Mission Impossible and Scarface as well, in case you were wondering for the old Brian De Palma. But you get a nice little John Travolta, and even some other interesting faces you might recognize and do pretty good performances. Um, I think Blowout is really interesting. I love the shots that they were able to do. It's got a pretty good score. I love seeing the very analog physical components of it all compared to the much more digital world that we live in. So Blowout, really interesting. If you haven't seen it, would give it a good recommendation. Very 80s it feels like, but it wasn't too cheesy, which was nice. Versus Requiem for a Dream, um, a very artsy film about doing drugs, shows both the dangers and experiences of using uppers and downers. Music, cinematography, and performances all add to it nicely. It's a crazy film. I would definitely want to rewatch Blowout versus Requiem for a Dream, because Requiem for a Dream is just, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes on throughout that, and everything between the characters of a surprisingly fucking weird cast to put together of Jared Leto and Jennifer Connelly, and even Marlon Wayans, um, who you might recognize from all the Scary Movie performances, and Ellen Burstyn, who I believe is the old lady at the end of Interstellar. Might be wrong, but she was pretty good as Jared Leto's mom. Um, don't count out Requiem for a Dream, but I'm gonna let Blowout move forward. And we some of these we just got to churn through because we've still got a lot of this bracket to get by. And then you've got The Apartment with Billy Wilder versus Mulholland Drive. Sorry, The Apartment by Billy Wilder, I believe is what I meant to say. I don't believe Billy Wilder ever ended up acting in any of his films. I might be wrong. It's probably my one and only Billy Wilder film that I've seen. Um, versus Mulholland Drive with David Lynch. And what I'll try and start this with David Lynch, is that I think his films, as I said in my review, I think I finally admit that a Lynch film is like a Picasso painting to me. Both are art and both are done well, but neither are for me and my tastes. I just, at the end of the day, I I don't exactly understand everything that he's going for, and perhaps he wants me to watch it a second time, and try and grasp, the whole dream concept, to put it lightly, or fantasy concept that he tries to perhaps drive through that some people have interpreted it as. It's a very, like every Lynch film, it tries to make you think, and it makes something really fucking weird at the end of the day. versus The Apartment, where a man is renting out his apartment. I don't say renting out, I'd say lending out his apartment to higher ups in his company um, in order to perform acts with their mistresses. I guess you would say that, even though that's pretty blunt in terms of how I put it. It's kind of a classic. It's got pretty good long takes. It's got good fake outs, and I think it's really solidly done overall, and it keeps you interested for almost the entire thing. And it's a surprising 2 hours, especially for 1960. So pretty good. I would definitely recommend it. Um, Personally, you might enjoy Mulholland Drive, but I don't think this is something I really want to come back to at the end of the day. So I'd probably just go for The Apartment here. Then you have Seven Samurai and another Akira Kurosawa film. You might see a few more down here as well. Versus The Fall. We'll start with Seven Samurai. I mean, right off the top, he really just fucking did amazing here. I think Seven Samurai. You have so many big names. You have like such good blocking. You have such good plot. You have great music. He's still using that old. This is 1954, so the old black and white. Um, and good for moving the camera, or just opting to be like, no, this is static. Make the people move. Make the people not move. I think really really well done. Um, Versus The Fall. The Fall, I think I'll put it out here right away. I think it's not as good of a movie, but I don't think you should just ignore it completely, because I think there's a lot of interesting concepts that they got going on here. Very Princess Bride esque. Great transitions, and a good example of an unreliable narrator. And you get Lee Pace too, he's an amazing voice to listen to, um, and uh, kind of an evolving storyline, much more than Seven Samurai. It feels like Seven Samurai, they go, okay, the village is getting um, ransacked by raiders. We want to defend the village. We go and hire samurai. Maybe there's a bit of tiffs throughout a lot of these points, but they get the samurai, and the samurai defend the village. Maybe some people are lost throughout the way. Of course, not all seven samurai and all village people are going to survive till the end, but they keep it interesting. Um, Through a relatively straightforward plot. Whereas The Fall, you go, okay, this isn't as bad as, trying to understand um, something like Ghost in the Shell, or like, what is a person? It's, what is a person worth to someone else? What are they willing to sacrifice? Um, Not what is a human being, or why a human being must exist, which is a lot more difficult. It feels like, and something you would see in Ghost in the Shell, just for comparison's sake. But um, The Fall, I do think it's not as good as Seven Samurai. But if you've got the time and you want to have something weird, and you want to have something with some crazy bright colors and a kind of batshit crazy plot going throughout it, it can be fun. It can definitely be fun. So I go Seven Samurai. Then you've got Hamnet, probably one of the first and only Chloe Zhao films that I've enjoyed, versus Sneakers. We'll start with Hamnet here. Um, Definitely enjoyed it more than Nomadland. I think if Nomadland I watched in quarter one, you probably heard me talk about it, and said that it was effectively a waste of time. Not willing to watch it. Hamnet is pretty interesting. By the time I got to the last act, the Shakespeare stuff definitely just made it feel jarring. Um, and the use of the final track um, did also feel weird to me, because it was used in both Shutter Island and Arrival. With Arrival, I feel like using it a lot better for that like classic song that they put at the end, even though that it's just a touching piece, but it was something that I recognized, right? So Hamnet, not bad. I think what really carries it is a lot of the performances. I think the story itself is not bad. I think I ended up giving it a good old four. Um, I think I would definitely recommend it for a 2025 film. I could see why it got all its praise, but at the end of the day, this is something that I will never rewatch. It's just, it's okay in terms of long term impact. I think it has on me. I think it's got like, okay, that was really good. I liked what they did with a lot of the drama and a lot of the romance and the will they won't they, and then what goes forth from that, and the concept of loss as well as sacrificing oneself for someone else. I think Hamnet's pretty good here. Then you got kind of goofy Sneakers. You got Sneakers, which if anybody hasn't seen Sneakers, I'll say it one more time. Maybe you should watch Sneakers. Um, it's a kind of goofy 90s hacking movie. Um, Huge cast. I mean, you've got Robert Redford. I can never pronounce his name correctly, but I want to say Sidney Poitier. Might have that wrong. David Strathairn, Dan Aykroyd. I don't know who River Phoenix is, but I guess he was in this movie. You got Ben Kingsley. Um, I think Sneakers is just a lot of fun. Hamnet, there's not much fun in Hamnet. It's pretty sad by the time you get to the end of it. Um, and Sneakers is a lot more fun. It's kind of goofy. Um, Arguably, Hamnet is a better movie overall. But I think Sneakers is just, it's fun. It's very fun. It would be something that I enjoy more and I would want to rewatch more than Hamnet, which does have a bit of does have a bit of an influence. I think I would go with Sneakers here. And we'll give this a little move down here. We've got Le Samurai, a really interesting like French. I wouldn't say mystery. I would more lean towards a crime film versus a Mission Impossible 3. Mission Impossible 3. I can't remember what the hell happens in that one. Um, oh, this is the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman. This one's pretty good. I'll give the other ones were okay. A Mission Impossible 3 is actually it is pretty fun. Um, um, it's a standard action flick, but it's got some pretty good performances. Again, Philip Seymour Hoffman is very fun. Goofy goofy camera work at times, but nothing offensive. Yeah, pretty good overall. Um, I think it's fun for a Mission Impossible movie. Definitely, they were able to recover from the complete stumble, trip over, fall, snap your neck that Mission Impossible 2 was in comparison, and actually came up with an acceptable action flick with Tom Cruise here versus Le Samurai being a kind of fun crime thriller. Um, I don't think it's really rewatchable. It feels pretty long for an hour 45, all things considered. But the whole concept of a planned hit and not wanting to, um, fulfill a contract is something that's pretty interesting. And it's got that 60s French style with some good framing and long takes. I think realistically, Le Samurai is probably a better movie, even though I don't really want to rewatch either of these. But I would probably go with Le Samurai. Then you've got mech fighting Pacific Rim versus Michael Clayton. Michael Clayton we'll talk about first here. A movie that's carried by damn good performances, some good music, and a thriller narrative with a protagonist suffering on two fronts. Fortunately, the screenplay is a little convoluted by the time you do the math on who everyone is and try to put everything together. You feel lost. I feel like this had a lot of potential to be much greater than it was, but most of the audience just came out of this feeling a little fuzzy. It was pretty fuzzy at the end of the day. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. It's probably one of the best opening Sandy film that I've had. I mean, the fact that Tom Wilkinson can perform that dialogue so well is insane. You definitely get some interesting parts with Tilda Swinton and George Clooney doing pretty well. They're not hitting. They're hitting doubles. They're not hitting it out of the park. They're not hitting triples, but pretty good. Um, all things considered. And then Pacific Rim is goofy big mech fight monster with character tropes. Haha. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's a Guillermo del Toro mechs fighting kaiju's movie. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. You get a little Braun Perlman and some Charlie Day in there at a certain point, and you get Idris Elba is just like, no daughter of mine is gonna fight with no mech or whatever the end up being. I forget most of it. And you get self-sacrifice and a whole concept at the end of that. So Pacific Rim is pretty good for that sort of genre. It's probably one of the best for that sort of genre. That sort of genre is not for me. I don't care for Max Finding Kaiju. So I think I go Michael Clayton here. All things considered, even though Pacific Rim is probably more rewatchable than Michael Clayton at the end of the day. Um, so I go with Michael Clayton. Then you get Ran versus Top Secret. We'll start with Ran. It is another Akira Kurosawa film. I really went pretty deep on this guy's stuff here, and it's the only one that I've seen from Kurosawa that's in color. And if anyone's curious, it's a retelling of Shakespeare's King Lear, set in historical epic of 16th century Japan, where an aging warlord divides his kingdom between his three sons. Um, Pretty good performances. Shot and story creates a nice epic. It is an epic. It is rather long. It's a nice 2 hours and 40 minutes. I remember it being pretty good. Um, Again, you're basing it off of an existing IP, so he can only go so far before it just he either opts for making something that's absurd or something that is sitting way too close to home. So Rand's pretty good for a serious movie. And then you've got Top Secret, a Val Kilmer movie where he goes to East Germany to perform in a music festival. Um, and it's a goofball movie. You got Peter Cushing reappearing here as bookstore proprietor. You don't see much of him, but it's a mainly Val Kilmer as as Elvis, also participating in some A Team esque sort of concepts, um, while just being goofy. Overall, some almost Monty Python style gags while still really keeping it together. Um, so Top Secret's pretty fun. It's a nice it's 90 minutes flat. You can watch this for supper, and by the time you're done, you're like, okay, let's finish up the night chores and go to bed. Right? You're not locking in for Ran, and by the time you finish it, you went, oh shit, we left the rice out. Now we have to throw it out. It's been nearly 3 hours. Right? So Top Secret's pretty fun, but I do. Again, gotta let Akira Kurosawa pull through here. I mean, he is really really going through here. I mean, he's 1, 2, 3, and 4 for 4 right now. It looks like maybe 5 if I didn't count right, but he's one of the greats for a reason. What can I say? What can I say? Then you've got Elektra, the the sequel to Daredevil, featuring not a Daredevil sidekick, but a Daredevil universe character of Jennifer Garner, um, as Elektra. I think I gave this a rather generous 3 out of 5. Sorry, I gave it a 2.5, not even that much. A sloppy follow up to Daredevil, got lost and fell asleep for a lot of this. Yeah, I don't think this has much going for it. They realistically probably shouldn't have made this, but I guess they were trying to cash in on everything that was Daredevil going forth. Um, so Elektra, really forgettable, really forgettable. Probably shouldn't have been made after after. Oh God, excuse me, a nice burp from all the talking. Um, After probably editing this video, I will never think of Elektra again unless somebody brings it up. It's purely just kind of a waste of time to watch in comparison to everything else that could be out there. Everything else that's already made it past the first round on this list, and everything else that Jennifer Garner is in is almost always better than what this is. I mean, you get she was in Deadpool versus Wolverine. She was in Juno. She's pretty damn good in Juno. She's in Catch Me If You Can, which she's pretty good in. Even arguably, not even arguably, she just is better in Daredevil. Um, now you're gonna make the argument of female lead. You can't be a female lead in that fucking movie. Fuck off. Fuck off. She's just the character's overall better in Daredevil. Not because it's not fleshed out, but because it is fleshed out to the extent that it is being not the main character of the movie. This is just a sloppy follow up to Daredevil. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think she really has any powers besides just being fast and has I think it's the kunais or whatever is what she holds, but kind of just a bit of a waste of time to watch this versus the very solid, I believe, 2025. I believe this was up for awards last year. Sentimental Value. I said really interesting themes and execution at play here. Performances are really solid and doing an excellent job telling a story that has already happened. A lot of the past concepts coming out in the present of the film. You've got obviously a very Swedish influence of, I believe it's Renata Reinsvig, who you might recognize from also being in Backrooms, Stellan Skarsgård, you hopefully recognize, and a few other big names and faces who did very well. I think this is really interesting. I loved a lot of what they were going for here. A lot of the performances, a lot of the drama through everything. I think it's incredibly well done. And I think if you're able to get over the fact that a good part of it is in Swedish and you have to watch it with subtitles, if you can get past that, you can really, really enjoy something that's special here. So while it's not a coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb, it might be coughing baby versus like the TNT that Christopher Nolan used to recreate the Oppenheimer bomb. Um, so definitely gonna go sentimental value here for this case. Then you get a goofy Starship Troopers um, with some surprising scenes throughout it, while still being, I'd say, relatively fun overall, and definitely a classic. Versus Barbarian, which is a, what would you call, what's his name? Zach Krager, who also did Weapons, but from Wise Kids You Know. One of his um, horror movies, something that really, really put him on the map. Um, I said a pretty laughable horror with some interesting moments. Should have ended 1,000 times, but they're horror protagonists who just have to keep going. Justin Long was pretty fun to watch. Barbarian, I think, is pretty fun. It's kind of a goofy horror, while still having horror concepts. It's pretty fast, all things considered. Kind of a rushed ending. I'm not really sure, but it's okay overall. Definitely plays on a lot of tropes. Um, and then you have Starship Troopers, which is a very over the top classic, with just a lot of a lot of fascist sort of concepts going throughout it. Um, and I mean, you even got the one of the goats of Clancy Brown. Do you trust your wife? All right, that's it. You little shit. That's the warden from Shawshank for anyone who's not familiar. Um, so overall, I think if I had to pick one, I would probably rewatch Starship Troopers. But Barbarian's pretty fun. Then you got oh my god, they're really making it easy for Kurosawa here. I'll talk about Ikiru first because I wanna deliver the good news before the bad news. This is it's probably one of Akira Kurosawa's most existential films. The face of I believe it's Takashi Shimura. Um, is his face tells 1,000 stories throughout all of this, and the concept of um, the meaning of life, especially for 1952 in Japan. They're probably fresh out of industrialization and a lost war and everything else. And be able to pull something through with that. He did something really special here. Really enjoyed what it was, even though it did go a little long is perhaps my one gripe if I'm really picking at straws here. And then you've got like just a pure coughing baby of the Devil Wears Prada 2. I mean, it's no Electra, but this is pure cash grab. There's nothing to really grasp from this. If you like the Devil Wears Prada, just go watch that. Don't watch the second one. There's no reason for it. Um, the plot makes almost little to no sense. It plays a lot of screen time playing catch up, even for like a 2 hour film. There's probably 30-40 minutes of catch up, which just did I say catch up or catch up at this point? Catsup. Just makes no sense to really do that much catch up. Um, there I go again. But it's really a lot of me sighing at the movie and laughing at the movie, not with it. Um, it's got god awful cinematography. There's nothing that looks good in here. All of the shots look just purely ridiculous, and the soundtrack is not great. There's a lot of identity crisis within this of like, what are we going to really try and push this plot forward? And then they're like, here's a rug pull, and you're like, okay, there was no foreshadowing to any of that, but okay. And then they're like, isn't Anne Hathaway being a girl boss? And you're like, no, she was much more of a girl boss when Stanley Tucci gave her a makeover and she found confidence in the first film. This is her refining that confidence while playing catch up while still having confidence throughout the entire time, and you're just like, I can't get anywhere with this. I can't get anywhere with this. It's just it's brutal. And everything that is shown on a laptop or a cell phone, I wanted to vomit. It looked awful. This is a no brainer. You gotta go Ikaru for sure. Oh, it's taking a sec. Okay, we got it. It went through. Then we've got the final eight here down at the bottom of the first round, and we're only an hour in. We're only an hour in. I mean, you can put this on at work, and it'll take up your whole afternoon. um, you've got a '90s classic of Go, which I watched, sort of 1/3 of the way through June, with just a weird Timothy Oliphant is the one face that I recognize. William Fickner, I guess I also recognized. Um, but a surprisingly fun film. Oh, and it's also got Katie Holmes, a young Katie Holmes too. Um, Pretty wild movie with some interesting plot lines. Not much fat on this, and some nice music to tie it together. The cast is also surprisingly deep for 1999. A lot of young faces that become big names, of course. I think this is a very fun film. I love the intersecting storylines. I love what they did with a lot of this. This could have been so much worse. It could have been like one of those you're like, oh, it's that gross '90s movie, but it's pretty damn fun. And then you have what is my dark horse of this year. If anyone has talked to me about this, you've heard me say my opinions on this and how I feel about it. You have Tuner, which I actually watched as a as part of a double feature that I did one night where I went and watched Backrooms probably around 6 p.m. It was filled with it was pretty close to not opening day, but it was within opening week, so it was a packed theater full of teenagers. um, versus Tuner, which I watched at like 10:30 p.m. with I was one of four people. There was one other guy, and then there was a couple in this film. Tuner is crazy good. So if anyone's heard me talk about this, they've heard like talk about movies that were released this year that I enjoyed. This is my dark horse. This is if I don't see anything else, if Odyssey, um, that comes out later this month doesn't fucking blow my socks off, this is my movie of the year. Even though it won't get recognized, it won't get picked up at award shows or anything else, but I do think Tuner was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It was very, very fun. Um, I'll try and give a bit of a review here. I'm not sure if um, anything here is a spoiler, but I'll try and read it. I went to this expecting a little sloppy that I went into this expecting something a little sloppy that just barely recovers with the big names of Dustin Hoffman and Jean Reno, and boy was I surprised that when I got something that perfectly scratched the safety itch that I had with Marty Supreme. The editing this is tight. I mean, really tight. I don't think there's any fat in this film. Every scene, every moment, every montage feels really good. Each piece adds just the right moment of character while still keeping it interesting and just a tad mysterious. Not to mention the aggressive attention to detail and sound design that knows just when to let us hear what Nikki is hearing versus what everyone else hears. Loved each montage, loved the music choice, loved the edit on both side A and side B. Cinematography is steady with some interesting shots uses for the saves. It reminded me a lot of Blowout. Montage shots and hearing loss moments, very good, really happy with it. Story is very Safdie-esque by the second half with my heart in my throat like it was an Uncut Gems or Marty Supreme. I love a good, gotta do the job for the morally bad guys so I can protect and care for the people I love sort of story. I enjoyed performances too. All the main cast were solid. We get a nice taste of Jean Reno towards the end that tied in nicely. The lovebirds of Nikki and Ruthie were portrayed very well, but Dustin Hoffman's performance blew it out of the park as Harry. I laughed at almost every line from him, and he brought so much to this role. His lines are great and delivers them perfectly. Probably the best thing that I've seen of him since All the President's Men, showing he still has it at his age. And I listed a couple songs that I was at least able to recognize throughout that, which pair really nicely for the montages of like the start, and I think there's one sort of towards the middle with that the Goodfellas, these are the good times sort of concept. So well, Go is a pretty damn good movie, and I could definitely recommend it if you're looking for something that's like you're like this is '90s, but it is fun. I'd recommend that. But if you're looking for something from 2026 that maybe it's just eking into that cheap theater sort of slots, or maybe it's eventually coming on a streaming service of some sort. Definitely go watch Tuner. I can't recommend it enough compared to a lot of other things here. So gonna go with Tuner going through here. Then you've got Days of Heaven, an amazingly shot movie, versus Hellboy, an okay shot movie, with some very fun parts from the old Guillermo del Toro once again. Um, to put it bluntly, this is a superhero movie with that's not as superhero as you thought it would be, and is actually like is good some good story concepts, and keeps it pretty interesting throughout. So Hellboy pretty good for some comic book sci-fi, but nothing overly crazy. It's pretty easy to follow, end to end too. Then you got Days of Heaven, which is just, I mean, it looks beautiful, even though, at least for me, the story just sort of stumbled along until I was able to get to the end. I said a set of okay story and dialogue paired with a damn good score and amazing cinematography at times. Most of this for me was just wading through the story just to see some beautiful shots of someone in front of a sunset, the locusts, or an incredible landscape. I mean, this is landscape styles like cinematography that I haven't seen before. I don't know if I'll ever see again. The cinematographer really went fucking insane here, um, and it's not. It's something that I can definitely recommend going forward for anyone who's interested. You get the Richard Gere, who you might recognize from Pretty Woman, and not too many other names that really stood out to me. But again, this is one that you look for and you go, wow, that sunset and that golden hour looks amazing. Um, so while Hellboy might actually be more rewatchable and has better characters, I think Days of Heaven, um, in terms of cinematography, just really solid. Then you've got Kiyoshi Kurosawa, unrelated to a Akira Kurosawa film, Cure, which is just kind of batshit crazy, and Conclave, which came out in 2024. You might recognize as the Ray Fiennes Picking the New Pope movie. I'll read out my Conclave review first. Interesting look at a unique concept with pretty good dialogue, cinematography, score, and performance from all. Another entry to one of my favorite genres of film, of dudes in a room talking. Dudes, of course, being non-gendered. If you've got dudes that you're just describing as perhaps non-binary people or ladies, I think it can still be definitely very good. Even though you don't see a lot of those, but sentimental value for a good part of it, like, it is kind of just dudes in a room, aka ladies in a room talking. Okay, maybe it doesn't work. Dudes a little too gendered, but at the end of the day, it is a lot of just dialogue based drama more than anything else. So Conclave, pretty interesting technique with what it's trying to go with there. And then you've got Cure, which I said is probably one of the most unique films that I've seen this year, and I think I still have to give it to that. I'm looking at a lot of other ones here, just to see how unique it is. Maybe Ghost in the Shell might be something that's as unique as that. Maybe Possession, um, but I think Cure is very, very unique. The cinematography is really good. It's got a lot of nice, good long takes. Music might be a little light, but it's probably okay. The acting, dialogue, and shot compositions are all really, really good. It's confusing to a point, that you don't know what is real after a certain part. Is are the scenes that a detective is investigating, is this everything that he's making up in his mind and he's not really even there, or is he actually investigating something? And just when you think you're starting to grab it, it ends, and you go, ooh, okay, okay. So I think Conclave, I end up giving these both a 4 out of 5, but I do think, like, if I have to put them both together, I think Conclave, if I'm picking out of my 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, I think Conclave would end up sliding in at a 3 out of 5 out of those 4 out of 5s, whereas Cure might be a 4 out of 5 compared to a 4.5 out of 5 within that 4.5, 4 out of 5 set, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Probably not, but Cure, I'm gonna let slide through here. And then with the last one in round one, coming around an hour and 11 minutes here to go through 50 movies. You give each one, a minute and a half. You end up going through a lot of time here. We've got Sherlock Jr., which was the last film that I watched this year. A good Buster Keaton film with a really good gags. Um, I love the pole falling down. It's a nice tight 45 minutes. He doesn't drag it on too long. It's got the guy jumping through another guy, sort of thing. So really interesting Buster Keaton film with some very very fun gags. Versus who knows what Mission Impossible this is at this point. Let's just get it over with. Rogue Nation. Uh, which I said had a Spectre style plot. Ethan and team take on their most impossible mission yet, eradicating the Syndicate, an international highly skilled rogue organization committed to destroying the IMF. You get some more Jeremy Renner. You get your usual goofy goober set. I have no idea what this one actually is. I have no idea what the big set piece was. Um, let me quickly scrape through the plot here. Um, this is the one where they have the fight in the opera. Yeah, okay. Um, right, then they have to go with the prime minister. This one's just a mess. This one's just a mess. It's another Mission Impossible movie that like you're like okay, it's an action movie. Just let it wash over you. You've planted yourself on the beach. Just let the waves come up to your waist, and then slick back out to sea. You just let it happen. Um, so in comparison, you really just got to go for Sherlock Junior here. You really do. And there we go. That's 25 that are already eliminated, and we're moving through to round two. Obviously, because we don't have a perfect. What would that? It would have to be a base four, I believe. Or it would have to be base two. I think it's or a power of two. Sorry, it might have to be a power of two in order to make it perfect. So I think it would have to move up to 64 to make sure there'd be no buy rounds. But it doesn't matter. Rashomon blows is going to blow either of these out of the water. I think by the time it actually comes to it. Uh, but we'll make that decision in round three. You get Mikey and Nikki. You get Peter Falk and John Cassavetes versus 10 Things I Hate About You. A really fun rom com with some honestly great lines. I think Mikey and Nikki is a lot more artsy, but I think 10 Things I Hate About You is just, it's fun. It's very fun, especially for what comes out of this genre as complete garbage. This is actually pretty damn good. So I'd probably give it to 10 Things I Hate About You. Then you got Possession versus Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell, obviously just blows a game of shadows out of the water. But I think when it comes down to being put up against Possession, a really interesting horror film, which that's not just pure horror, but also has a lot of psychological concepts to it. I think it doesn't stand the tale. So I think you got to give it to Possession here. Then you get American Gangster versus High and Low. At the end of the day, it's a it's a Denzel Washington movie. He does everything in order to get what he wants by the end of the day. It's Ridley Scott. It's pretty good, but it's nothing crazy. And then you get an amazing Akira Kurosawa film. So it sucks that I watched so many of his films in the second quarter because they're just dominating the fucking bracket. They're just dominating. And then you get Dead Reckoning versus Ghost Protocol. Now I have to go back to the fuck. I gotta go back to Wikipedia to figure out which one's which. Dead Reckoning is part one of the final thing, and then Ghost Protocol is the Brad Bird one. The Brad Bird one is much more fun. It's got a lot better editing. It's a lot tighter. It doesn't waste your time. It's very fun. compared to whatever this AI weird shit is that they got going on here. You go with Ghost Protocol, right? The Hound of the Baskervilles versus Backrooms. The Hound of the Baskervilles is really interesting, especially for an old school 50s style mystery and whodunit and um, keeping it interesting throughout. I think it's really good. I think you should watch it if you get the chance. But I think Backrooms is something that we've gotten that's new, that's unique, that A24 really puts a lot of faith in. The director did amazing for his first attempt. Assuming you don't follow the conspiracy that it was ghost directed, but that's whatever. I think Backrooms is really solid. I think I gotta let it go through to unfortunately beat out the Hound of the Baskervilles here. Then we've got Blowout with Brian De Palma film with John Travolta versus The Apartment, Billy Wilder film. I think Blowout's better. There's going to be people that will crucify me for that due to The Apartment's influence long term, but I think Blowout is really fun. I love all the analog sort of concepts to it. I think you should still watch The Apartment if you get the chance if you haven't seen it, but Blowout does just amazing here. Probably about at least 2/3 of the way through here, so get a little water break. Get really loosen the windpipes there at the end of the day, and then we'll move down here. We get Seven Samurai. I just realized there's probably going to be a point. It's probably going to be close to around here. Um, and I might have to pair up some Akira Kurosawa films up against each other, but that's okay. That's okay. You got Seven Samurai versus Sneakers. At the end of the day, Sneakers is very fun. You get a lovable Robert Redford that's paired with a pretty damn fun rest of the cast. The concepts are simple throughout. It's got a little bit of both analog and digital concepts that you might see also in Blowout. But Seven Samurai is just really, really good. It's kind of very fun throughout, surprisingly. I think in part for, let me see if I can find his old name here. Give me a second. Toshiro Mifune? He's the same guy who was also in High and Low for a certain part, and he was in Rashomon. He's the main guy in Yojimbo, um, but he plays excellent comic relief as not really the fool or the jester, but sort of a slightly clowning part. And the clowns can be fun. So I think I got to give it to Seven Samurai going through here. And then you've got Le Samurai, not to be confused with Seven Samurai, but The Samurai or Le Samurai, a French film versus Michael Clayton. I think I do have to give this to Michael Clayton moving forward. I think Le Samurai is a lot of brooding throughout there, surprisingly, that I didn't mention in this first matchup because you don't really need to, but it does slightly hold it back for me. I think it's got interesting concepts still throughout it, and it's got a good story. But I think Michael Clayton is pretty damn fun, and that monologue is just still really good, and it does sort of just tie itself up, but while also still kind of stumbling. So it's both of these have their own drawbacks, but I do think I have to give it to Michael Clayton at the end of the day. Then you've got Ran versus Sentimental Value, and I have to give it its flowers. Um, Akira Kurosawa really knows how to work with color when he actually was able to film in color, and he's very very good at what he does here in Ran. Um, but I do think Sentimental Value is more interesting and in a film that I enjoyed more, even if you could argue it's not as impactful and maybe is even not as good as Ran. But this is watching an epic at the end of the day versus a pretty tight movie with some really good dialogue, some really good editing, and a good story behind it. So I think I unfortunately, it sucks to see Rand go out here at only the second round, but I'm gonna move sentimental value moving forward here. Then you got Starship Troopers versus Ikaru, or Ikiru. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that one here, but Starship Troopers. Um, while it is a classic and it is really good and the performances are pretty fun and a lot of the dialogue is pretty fun, I'm doing my part and everything else like that, and sort of the concepts of fascism and everything else throughout there. I think Ikiru's just really solid throughout. I think it plays well with its existential concepts, and it does kind of light a fire under your ass rather than Starship Troopers being like, okay, I just watched a goofy sci-fi movie. So I think I would give it to Ikaru here at the end of the day. Then you've got Tuner, which I've already said my 2 cents on, versus Days of Heaven, which of course I've also said my 2 cents on, but I did leave out that whole narration and slight storytelling from the little girl that's within this film that you end up listening to a bit. Um, I think it is interesting. It does add to the story, but it does also sort of take me out from it. So while the story is kind of not amazing, the cinematography is probably better than Tuner at the end of the day, even though Tuner's got some really interesting parts throughout there. I think I do have to give it to Tuner over Days of Heaven. Unfortunately for this really pretty film, I fucking love that film. I fucking love Tuner. Then you've got Cure versus Sherlock Jr. Sherlock Jr. at the end of the day is a Buster Keaton film that he does very well in, and it's very fun to watch. But I think at the end of the day, in terms of something that will stick with me longer and will have a stronger influence on both storytelling and cinematography and mystery to me moving forward. I think I enjoyed Cure more than Sherlock Jr. Even though probably enjoyment per minute might be better with Sherlock Jr., I really love the full evolving storyline that you end up seeing in Cure there. So we're gonna move on here. We've got round three possession with a buy round here, similar to Rashomon. You've got Rashomon versus 10 Things I Hate About You, and well, I do think Rashomon does a lot of interesting concepts with its storytelling and the unreliable narrators and trying to tell a story by three different people in three different ways with emphasis and bias towards each one, and I think it plays with that really well, especially for how old it is. Um, I have to give it all of its respect. I do think 10 Things I Hate About You is a very fun 2000s film that really stuck out to me more than any other one that I've seen in its time. I think in part of that is because Heath Ledger is just really fun to watch and to listen to, especially with all of his wonderful dialogue. Um, I'm trying to pull up the letterbox page here, but the maybe the old LV up is stealing all the bandwidth on the Wi-Fi's here, but I think it's got a pretty stacked cast. It's pretty fun, really fun dialogue at the end of the day. So while I do respect Rashomon for being what it is, I think I got to give it to 10 Things I Hate About You. And you hate to end up seeing Rashomon go out, being such a titan it is. I mean, all of Akira Kurosawa films are, all of his classics are of course titans, but sometimes it just doesn't stick with me as much as I hope it would. Then you've got High and Low versus Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This one, it will pull through here. This is a Brad Bird Mission Impossible movie, and it's got good editing, it's got good title sequences, it's very fun. I do think High and Low is better overall with all of that mystery, an incorrect kidnapping, the blocking, pretty good music, the Hal Ketchum sort of concept here. Um, really fun here, I think, at the end of the day. So they'll end up getting a buy around here, round four, but I think that's fine because of how solid High and Low. So they'll go straight to the semifinals here. I think at Backrooms versus Blowout, I think Backrooms is pretty good, especially for what it could have been and what it is. But I think Blowout is a better movie. I really like the ending. I like the twists. I love the cinematography that they're going through here. All the analog components with all the audio stuff. Really fun here. A lot of the mystery that Travolta goes through to try and get it all. So I think I do have to go with Blowout here at the end of the day. I think it's Seven Samurai versus Michael Clayton. It's sort of just the end of the line here for Michael Clayton. I think the fact that it is pretty confusing throughout and kind of you don't really know what's happening or who to follow. And especially they throw a lot of names that are um, pretty distracting throughout. You don't really know who is who at the end of the day, or who you should be really paying attention to. Maybe that's what they're going for here, but I think Seven Samurai is just it's really solid going forward. Then you have two very emotional films of Sentimental Value versus Ikaru. Sentimental Value, I think, will pull through here for me. Ikaru or Ikiru, I think I've pronounced it multiple ways each time. I think you should go watch if you haven't gotten the chance. Really interesting concepts on existentialism and dramas, while still having that just backbone of Akira Kurosawa's ability to block, to shoot, to make everything just look like you're like, wow, that's crazy sets that they were able to do. Um, really love what he does with making people move and everything else. Um, but I do think I have to give it to Sentimental Value. I think about it more. I love Stellan Skarsgård's performance here. I love Renata Rensby, I want to pronounce it as, and the other sister who I haven't seen anything else from, but I think Sentimental Value is really well made. So I'm gonna let it go through here. Then you've got Tuner versus Cure. Don't count out Cure here with how much I love Tuner. Cure is a solid movie. If you haven't seen it, it might still be on Criterion if you're watching this pretty recently. Let me take a quick peek for you here. I mean, you could do this yourself, going to justwatch.com or something, but it is still on Criterion, and it might be there for a while. This is really interesting. Um, you get concepts of um, amnesia as well as repeat killings. This is something that I could definitely see Fincher watching and being like, "Ooh," and then twiddling his fingers, being like, I think it's twiddling your mustache and then rubbing your fingers together. I was gonna say twiddling your fingers and rubbing your mustache together, which might those might both still be perfectly fine sayings to say, but I think Tuner is really good. At the end of the day, I'm gonna let it slide through. This is gonna be a lot of bias for me, but it's my bracket, so don't fuck off. Is what I'll end up saying here. So we'll let that go through here, and then we're moving into round four. So this is deciding the semifinals. Effectively, this is my top six with one being a buy round here, just due to the number of people in the bracket. So we'll go to 10 Things I Hate About You versus Possession. I think Possession's a really good movie. I don't think it's rewatchable outside of wanting to go for a fun psychological and literal horror at parts versus I think 10 Things I Hate About You. I just watched this like a week ago. I think I could watch this in like August and still enjoy it. I think it's got that magic that hasn't fully rubbed off on me. And I think it's pretty fun. I think part of that is also the dialogue. It's got really tight dialogue. So I think I'll let it through here. Then you got Blowout versus Seven Samurai. And now, while I do think I rated Seven Samurai with a 4.5, and Blowout with a 4, I think Blowout's better. I think it's got more entertainment per a minute versus Seven Samurai. It slightly falls apart by the time you get to the end of the story, and and wrapping up that third act. But I think it is still better than Seven Samurai, even though Seven Samurai is really well put together. You're locking in for 3 hours here when you watch Seven Samurai. And while it is a good 3 hours, it is still long. It is still, a really laid out and easy to understand story, even though there is a bit of strife throughout. It does kind of follow end to end with where it's attempting to go with, whereas Blowout's got just something that I think is a bit more for me. So I'm gonna let that guy through here. Then you got Sentimental Value versus Tuner. I think I just love so much of the music and the montages and the vibes that like it immediately puts you in with Tuner that I once I was in and I was locked in till the end and I really cared for the character. I really cared for what he was going through, for the people that he was trying to support, and all the struggles that he was experiencing. That it just really stuck with me. Whereas Sentimental Value, I think, is a lot slower of a drama. It's portrayed a lot more throughout its performances. The music is a lot more muted, and it's a lot more heavily based on that story compared to Tuner. Arguably, has a much easier to grasp story, and it's not so much of a interpersonal drama versus a struggle to just make ends meet that Tuner ends up getting. So I will definitely recommend Sentimental Value. If you haven't seen it already, it's a really solid. I believe 2025. Titan. At the end of the day, but I do gotta let Tuner slide in here, for my recommendation. Then we're here. We're here in the top four in the semifinals. You get 10 Things I Hate About You versus High and Low. I think I gotta say it's the end of the line for 10 Things I Hate About You because High and Low is just one of those ones that's so damn good. I think it's solid end to end. It's got really good blocking. Everything that I've already said that allowed it to win, its previous three matchups, and probably would have won its fourth matchup allows it to win here in the semifinals. 10 Things I Hate About You, definitely recommend if you're looking for a rom com coming of age movie that's got some fun parts throughout it. Really good Heath Ledger performance. I gotta give it to High and Low at the end of the day here. To move it on to the finals. They got Blowout versus Tuner. And if you had me guess here, I could definitely see Tuner hitting top eight, top four here. I mean, I was really blown away by it. Perhaps if I watched it again, maybe the magic wouldn't hold up. Maybe it would with all the montages and how fun it is and the dialogue at times and the romance plot that it's got going on at the same time. But I think I'm surprised that Blowout actually made it this far. I think if you had me to end up choosing one, I don't think Blowout will make it this far. But I think I am, a bit of a sucker for all of its analog components at the end of the day. So, while I do have to give my flowers to Blowout, Tuner's bringing it through here to me. And once a little advertisement for LV Up goes through here, we're at the finals. We're at the finals here, and we'll give a little zoom in here on the old. We'll do a full max here. You got High and Low, and you got Tuner. I mean, what more can I say about these two that I haven't said already? High and Low, Out of everything that I've seen here, yeah, my favorite Akira Kurosawa film. He does what he does well, really well here. And it's dudes talking in rooms. What more can you like? And you got Tuner, a surprising film that I thought was going to be something sloppy that really pulled through. It was, I think it was a 2025 festival release, but a 2026, you know, Canadian theater release. Saw it same night as Backrooms. Was really blown away a lot more by this than Backrooms. Um, I think I think this is something that's it's my dark horse, and I'm gonna let it go through. I'm gonna let it take its number one spot here. At the end of the day, um, I think it's just it's very fun. It doesn't drag on too long. It's got plot points that you kind of realize are slightly obvious, but are still surprising and fun with what they ended up doing with it. And I think it's something that, like, you show your dad and he's like, that's a great film, that's really fun. So there's the list at the end of the day. There we are. We go full zoom out here. um, you know a lot of interesting ones making it pretty far. I did not think High and Low would make it this far. I thought it might lose to something else, but at the end of the day, it is a very good film. Not surprised by me picking Tuner. It's one film that I've talked about from this year more than anything else when somebody says, hey, recommend me a movie. I think, unfortunately, its theater run was not very long. I don't think it got as much advertising as it could have compared to um, a lot of other, titans this year's and this quarter specifically's theatrical releases. But I give it a shot. Almost everything here that I would say that's in round three or higher, I think is a must watch if you haven't seen it. Maybe Michael Clayton you might be able to skip. Um, Ghost Protocol is nothing crazy, but I think a lot of other things here are very, very good. If you're looking for a documentary, perhaps watch Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man here that unfortunately didn't make it out of round one, due to just how much of a strong film Possession is at the end of the day. First Reform didn't make it out. That's also really, really solid. Um, you may enjoy Mulholland Drive. That might be something that's for you. Even The Fall and Hammett. A lot of these are really, really good. Top Secret you might enjoy as a nice Tuesday night movie, I think is what I ended up calling it. Or perhaps I called something else that earlier. Devil Wears Prada 2 is kind of a waste of time money grab. Go, obviously, really hard for it to make it past Tuner, but it's also pretty fun. Conclave, you might even give a shot. And Sherlock Jr. is a nice 45 minutes, so maybe throw it on instead of watching this. I mean, you could have watched Sherlock Jr. twice by the time you ended up finishing this probably sloppy movie. Um, I call this a movie. This is a YouTube video that I'm going to lightly edit. It's nowhere near a movie. I don't know why I said the word movie, but this has been an hour and 40 minutes. This has been the quarter to 2026 bracket for my Letterbox diaries of movies that I haven't rewatched. Um, there are, of course, quite a few at the end of the day here that I end up rewatching. Baby Driver here in April. Saw Project Hail Mary for the second time. Still almost just as good, if not better. Adjustment Bureau, a little bit of a I don't know what you would call that. Not a pleasure watch, but a guilty pleasure of a watch. E.T., some Scorsese films, Chef with John Favreau, some great montages in here if you haven't gotten the chance. An A/B comparison of Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 8. Dunkirk, amazing cinematography and music there. Ocean's 12 and 13. Even Schindler's List here still kept it as the 5 stars. That's one that if you haven't seen, definitely give it a recommend. Bridge Too Far, um, great World War II movie with a crazy big cast. Moneyball, an Aaron Sorkin movie with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, pretty good. Raiders of the Lost Ark, pretty damn good. Social Network, Zodiac. I mean, you get some Fincher in here as well. And even a bit of a Fincher and Sorkin crossover with between these two here. So really solid overall. But if you haven't gotten the chance, go watch Tuner. Go watch High and Low. Go watch a lot of the ones that I recommend on this list. There's some that I don't. I can't stop you from watching it. At the end of the day, watch what you want to watch and enjoy what you want to enjoy. That's all I can give you. But watch more movies. And that's about it. And see ya.